Today we have a very special guest, Khleif.
My first year in real estate, I made about $8,000. My second year, maybe $10,000. But my third year, I made over $100,000, which back in 1980 was some real change. Fast forward to today, I've owned over 2,000 houses I've rented long-term in 3 states. I own thousands and thousands of apartment units now. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. I thought I was a freaking real estate god. 2008 and 9, I lost conservatively $50 million. And so what I'm known for talking about on my podcast is the mindset it took to have $50 million to lose in the first place, and maybe more importantly, the mindset it took to get it back. We really failed our way to success. Don't fear failure, fear freaking regret.
Welcome back to another episode of the Austin is Zaback Show. Today we have a very special guest, somebody who flew all the way across the country, is in town right now, Khleif, and you probably heard of him before. He actually runs and is the host of the #1 commercial podcast in the world. And Rod, you know, your statistics on the podcast, I was doing a little bit of digging. You've gotten like 30 million views a year, some big, gigantic number of people that listen to your show. So obviously, you know, you have a huge community, a ton of experience, and we have a lot of mutual friends. You were just speaking at WealthCon not too long ago with Ryan Pineda. So anyways, without further ado, I appreciate you being here, and I'm excited to dive on into it.
Oh, it's great to meet you, brother. It's been a really warm welcome. Got to meet your better half, and you know, it's awesome, and looking forward to having some fun with you today, man.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. You know, we'll do what every podcaster in the world does, right? And that is, you know, why don't we start off for somebody who hasn't heard of you, you know, doesn't know anything about you, you know, how in the world did you get to where you're at today?
Sure.
Talk to me about your story.
Appreciate that. So I'm a Dutch immigrant. I was born in the Netherlands, you know, wooden shoes and windmills, and immigrated when I was 6 with my brother Albert, my mother's Vantje. Ended up in Denver, Colorado, and we really struggled initially. You know, I remember eating expired food because we shopped at an expired food store, true story, and drinking powdered milk with our cereal in the morning because it was cheaper than real milk. And trust me, it sounds better than it is. And I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school until I finally got disgusted and said, fuck this, I'm going to go, got a job at Burger King. And when I was 14, I lied about my age because I was tall so I could get a job and buy my own clothes. And you know, I'm sure you've got listeners had it harder than I did, or maybe have it harder now with this economic uncertainty. But, you know, I knew I wanted more. And luckily, my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. We always had a house full of kids. And with her babysitting money, she was a bit of an entrepreneur. So she invested in the stock market successfully with no formal education. She also invested in real estate. But her first real estate acquisition was a house directly across the street from us. She bought it when I was 14 for about $30,000. And then when I was 17, she told me she made $20,000 in her sleep. I'm like, and this is when $20,000 was a lot of money, okay? This is 1977. And I'm like, what? You made $20,000? You didn't freaking do anything? Screw college. I'm getting into real estate. So I went out and got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18, which back then you could do with education. You didn't even need any experience. I could have my own office. I was smart enough not to open my own office. I went and worked for a guy, and I was still living at home. My first year in real estate, I made about $8,000. My second year, maybe $10,000. But my third year, I made over $100,000, which back in 1980 was some real change. And so what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy that taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology, and how really that's 80 to 90% of your success in anything. You know, only 10 to 20% is the stuff we talk on about our podcast, you know, the real estate stuff, the technical stuff. It's really the do, and it's the keep doing, and it's to get back up after you get your ass handed to you and whatnot. But, you know, fast forward to today, I've owned over 2,000 houses I've rented long-term in 3 states. I own thousands and thousands of apartment units now. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept.
Wow.
And yeah, that's what I said. Wow. And it's about $8,300 an hour if you do the math on a 40-hour work week. And I got a head so big I could barely fit it through a door. I thought I was a freaking real estate god. You know when that happens, God or the universe, whatever you believe in, give you a nice little smackdown. That was 2008. 2008 and 9, I lost conservatively $50 million. And so what I'm known for talking about on my podcast and at my boot camps and so on and so forth is the mindset it took to have $50 million to lose in the first place, and maybe more importantly, the mindset it took to get it back. And so, you know, happy to drill down on some of that with you if you like. But yeah, I'm That's my story.
It's a hell of a story.
At a high level.
Yeah, hell of a story. And we're going to peel back that onion.
Okay.
And we're going to do a deep dive because I want to get into it. You know, we were talking just before the show, Rod. You're like, why don't you do multifamily, right? And I'm known for, you know, the single family. I'm the single family guy, and I'm one of the best guys at it. So we'll dive into all of that. I want to talk real quick because I think I love focusing on people's failures because a lot of people don't talk about failure, right? All we see is success every freaking day of our life, you know, but you had this great big failure.
I call it a seminar, by the way, because it's only a failure. You don't get your ass back up, and you don't get the lesson.
Yeah, you got the lesson, right?
Right.
But $50 million in 2008.
2008 and
right?
9, yeah.
I mean, what happened? Let's just peel back that onion a little bit.
Well, first, let's talk about failure in general for a moment, okay? Because I think it's a relevant conversation. So we really failed our way to success. It's never a failure if you don't get back up. I mean, unless you don't get back up, okay? And, you know, I've built 28 businesses in my career. Several worth tens of millions of dollars. I've got 3 right now that are. Most were spectacular, flaming seminars, okay? Because we fail our way to success. So don't fear failure. If you're listening to this, fear freaking regret, okay? That's a bigger fear, okay? I got to meet the billionaire owner of Spanx, Sarah Blakely, beautiful human being. She's married to Jesse Itzler. They're just a cool couple. And actually, they were at that WealthCon. They were at Grant's.
I was at that one.
Yeah. They're cool. Yeah. But anyway, she told me at a mastermind we were in together that her dad used to ask her and her brother on a weekly basis, what have you failed at this week? And I thought to myself, what an awesome freaking question to ask your kids so that you don't fear failure, right? So just talk about regret for a second. Then we'll go back to my story. But you know, there was so like I said, don't fear failure, fear regret. There was this nurse in Australia named Bronnie Ware, and she was a hospice nurse, and she took care of patients when they were about to die. And she asked him a question. And the question was, Austin, what do you have any regrets? Bottom line, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about something like the 5 regrets of dying. You know what the number 1 regret was? Not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. I can't think of anything worse than that. So again, don't fear failure. So, when I lost everything in 2008 and 9, let's talk about some of the strategies I used to recover from that, because they're the same strategies used to get off your butt and actually do something. So you want to chat about that for me?
Yeah, I would love to.
Okay. So the first thing I did was I reassociated with my goals. Like if you end up coming to one of my boot camps, for example, first thing we do is goal setting on steroids. Because how the hell do you get anything if you don't know what it is? You got to know what it is you want and why you want it, right? And so that was the first thing I did, was reassociate with what I wanted. Because it would have been real easy to focus on the failure, okay? And some people make it their story forever. I use it to teach. I don't, I didn't have it become my identity. I just use it to teach the lessons in it. But it could have easily become my identity as well. And so it's critical that you focus on the positive, not the negative, because, whatever you focus on gets larger, both positive or negative, right? And so I reassociated with my goals. Then the next piece in this thing is you have to make a decision. And the Latin root for the word decision means to cut off, okay? It's not dipping your freaking toe in the water. It's not 1 foot in, 1 foot out. When you decide, it is done, okay? It is done. And then you're like a train on a track. And if you don't make that decision, you're going to get knocked off track, okay? And once you've made that decision, then you're 100% committed. And the Latin root for the word decision, like I said, means to cut off. So if you're going to attack the island in battle, a great analogy for this, you're going to attack the island in battle, you burn your ships, so you're taking their damn ships home. That's a decision. And so you make a decision. Then the next piece is you got to take the first step. So for me, it was just picking myself back up, crawling out from another rock I was hiding under, feeling sorry for myself and getting back on the treadmill again. And I built a litigation support company that had 80 employees at one time out of the ashes of all that. I was helping families save their homes that were losing them in foreclosure. I built law firms in 5 states. We stopped the foreclosures through litigation. And then I had 60 people in the back office doing loan modifications. It was we saved thousands of people's homes. Wow. But anyway, but I had to take that first step to get back on my feet. And it's the same thing if you're listening and you haven't taken action yet. Maybe you're in a rat race W-2 job and your family deserves more. You deserve more. You got to make the decision. That's number one. And then you got to take that first step. You got to take that leap of faith. And, I'm sure like me, you have a lot of analytical listeners. And listen, if you're analytical, I love you. You know who you are, and you know how you have to check off every freaking box before you make a move. You can't do that here. You've got to make that move. And, you take, and I'll tell you, I see it with my students, and you probably do as well. It's that first deal. It's the scariest. It's the most stressful. It takes the longest. And I'm kicking my students in the butt. Okay, I know it's been 6 months. I know it's been 8 months. I don't care. Keep going. And then they get that first deal, and then they have 4. I'm like, what the hell just happened? It's that law of the first deal, and it's that first step. But you got to take that first step. And Dr. Martin Luther King said, "You take that first step in faith, the next step will be revealed." Even Lao Tzu, thousands of years ago, said, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." But you got to take that step. So that's the next piece. Then I would tell you, we talked about focus. Focus is critical. Okay, and I get excited about my podcast numbers. And I listen to 2 podcasts, okay? I listen to Joe Rogan and I listen to Tim Ferriss because I want both sides of the aisle. I'm definitely on one side. I can tell you we won't go down that rabbit hole. But I listen to Tim Ferriss, which is on the other side, but I listen to him and I get excited about my tens of millions of downloads. They get it a week, both those guys, right. But Tim Ferriss, it was interesting. I noticed something on Tim Ferriss's show. Is, he interviews the best of the world, the best athletes, Michael Phelps, NFL, NBA players, best actors, Arnold, Jamie Foxx, Ed Norton, Hugh Jackman, billionaires like Ray Dalio, heads of the biggest companies in the world like Zuckerberg. And he deconstructs their success. It's very cool conversations, intellectual, high-level conversations. But I started to notice a pattern, Austin. They almost all meditate. What does meditation enhance? Focus. I think the most successful people on the planet have the highest degree of focus. It's something I struggle with. So many of us are, watching Netflix, scrolling through freaking, video, social media while we're doing it, which kills our focus. But focus is super important. So that's the next piece. And it's so easy to focus on what you don't want. That's why the goals are so important. So that you have those in front of you to focus on what you want. So that's the next piece. The one after that, I would say, is playing to your strengths. And you cut me off anytime here because I've got a few more of these. But
go ahead.
So many people focus on building their weaknesses. And I'm going to tell you, especially in my world. So I teach people how to buy apartment complexes, something I'm super proud of. I've been teaching somewhere between 5 and 6 years, and my students own, I think, close to 210,000 units.
Wow.
Very proud of that. This business that I'm in is a team sport. It's not like what you do. I mean, I bought 2,000 houses mostly by myself. My brother's involved a little bit, and I had some employees, but it was, I could do it on my own. You're not going to do that when you're taking down 10, 20, 30, 40, $50 million apartment complexes. It's a team sport. And so it's critical you play to your strengths. And I would say this applies to any business that you get into, okay? Why? Because your strengths are your greatest assets, okay? And if you're playing to your strengths, you're loving what you're doing. And if you love what you do, work is play. You never work another day in your life. So play to your strengths and hire a line or partner for your weaknesses. And like in the multifamily space that I'm in, it requires an analytical person, okay? But it also requires someone that build relationships, more outgoing, introvert, extrovert. That's a match made in hell in my space. I mean, match made in heaven. Sorry, not hell. Sorry, going a little too fast. I had too much coffee. So I mean, that's the perfect scenario in my space, analytical with outgoing. And, sometimes you meet somebody that's both, but very often that's, like my last partner was a CPA, the one after that, super analytical. And so, again, play to your strengths because the other reason why you want to play to your strengths is if you love what you do, which you would if you're playing to your strengths, is you'll be passionate about it. Yep. And when you're passionate, you have the ability to influence people, okay? And that's required in pretty much any business, You're going to influence employees to come work with you. You're going to influence investors to invest in you, so on and so forth. So play to your strengths is the next piece.
Yeah.
And, we talked about focus. We talked about failure. Don't fear failure. A lot of people also have limiting beliefs and fear pop up. And, like when I immigrated, I didn't speak English. I got thrown into school, found out what bullies were for the first time. I got my ass kicked occasionally, hadn't learned how to fight back yet. And then my mom, proud Dutch woman that she was, thought it'd be a great idea to send me to school in wooden shoes and those leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest, the lederhosen. So I got my ass kicked again. And they'd chase me home from school, and she'd chase them off with a fly swatter. So the next day, ass beaten. And I came up with this belief system that I wasn't good enough. You know, I used to ask myself, how can I show them I'm good enough? Which of course presupposed I wasn't. And a lot of people have these limiting belief systems, like I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not old enough, I'm not young enough, I'm not analytical enough. That was another one of mine. And there's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99.9% of them are BS. But you know, we have this emotional thing happen to us. We believe they're real. Sometimes we're not even consciously aware of it. So if you're listening and you've got one of these BF's belief systems and you're consciously aware of it, drag it out into the daylight. Look at it with your adult rational mind. Recognize that it's BS and it'll diminish. I mean, I used to be afraid of raising my hand in front of 10, 15 kids in a classroom, and now I speak in front of literally thousands and thousands of people a year.
Yeah.
So I was able to eliminate that fear of rejection, fear of humiliation, feeling like I wasn't good enough.
Sure.
What else?
I want to talk to you about people, right? You said, I listened to a clip, Rod, where you said in that 08 crash, right? You know, you were losing 50 million but you were around people that were like,
that's peer group.
50 million's nothing.
Yeah. Let's talk about peer group. Thank you. Sorry, I interrupted you, but
No, you're good.
Okay. So yes, your peer group is so freaking important. When I was losing everything, I was in Tony Robbins' Platinum Partnership. It's this big mastermind. It's like 130 grand at the time. It's more than that now. And I was around people that had prepared for that crash, okay? And they were killing it. They were thriving. And they're like, get up, you puss, 50 million, schmillion, go make something happen.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to tell you, and I hope we talk about this. I think the proverbial shit's about to hit the fan, and I really believe that. So I'd love to tell you why I believe that. But the key is, when that happens, who do you want to be around? The people that are in fear, hiding under rocks, or the people that are out there killing it, right? So peer group's critical. And I will tell you, so many people default to a peer group that they went to school with or that they work with. And they may have their own limiting beliefs, their own fears, and they may be afraid of losing you. They may be afraid of feeling less than if you succeed. They may be, have their naysayers. And sometimes it's family. I'm going to tell you, love your family, but choose your peers proactively, because who you hang out with is who you become, period. You know, if you show me your 3 best friends, I'll show you who you are in every aspect of your life, your health, your happiness, definitely your finances, your relationships. So it is critical you select wisely. And, which is why my coaching program, like yours, I'm sure kicks ass as well. I mean, you're around people that want more out of life. And most of those 210,000 units I was talking about were done they're called my warriors, my coaching students, because it's not only is it a team sport, but everybody builds themselves up. You know, you'll go and tell somebody what you're up to, and out of their own fear, they'll try to minimize it and hold you back. And I will tell you, when you first get started in this or any business, that dream is a fragile thread. You got to be careful who the heck you share it with, because they can break that thread otherwise. I'm really glad you brought that up. I forgot about peer group.
Yeah, no, 100%. I couldn't agree more with everything that you said. I want to kind of dive into some practical, logistical, right? But one of the first things I want to talk about, Rod, is single family versus multifamily. Right? You know, you talked about you owned 2,000 single family homes at one point.
I had a fun debate with, we did a podcast and there were 2 multifamily guys and 2 single family guys. And we had a lot of fun debating it. But listen, it took me a long time to get the memo, brother. Okay. Listen, I love wholesaling and flipping what you do, because it's a great way to make quick cash. By the way, you can wholesale multifamily as well.
You can.
FYI. I put a clip in my Warrior Facebook group. It's been a couple years now, maybe even almost 3 years. And I said, how many of you wholesaled a deal made over 100 grand? And a dozen had, and 2 made over $1 million wholesaling a multifamily. So just throw that out there. But and I loved, obviously it took me 2,000 houses to get the memo. That's not the greatest tool for long-term renting, okay? It's much, and for a lot of reasons. You know, if you have a house and it's empty or 100% vacant, and houses have their own taxes and insurance. And so, when you, the cash flow, it's tougher to cash flow. And like my 2,000 houses, let me explain why in 2008 and 2009 I had 800 houses, okay, along the Gulf Coast of Florida. And people are like, you were over leveraged. I owed 30 cents on the dollar, and I still crashed and burned. So here's why. Okay, so there were some logistical reasons. So let me be completely transparent. My houses were 2 hours south of me, 2 hours north of me, and everywhere in between. So logistically, that was a mistake. I had properties in wind and flood zones, higher insurance, impacts cash flow. Taxes in Florida are higher because there's no state income tax. So they have to make it up elsewhere. So the property taxes are higher, impacts cash flow. But what killed me is most of my assets were C class, meaning, there's A, B, C, and D. A is the brand new stuff. D is the hood. Stay out of the hood. Ask me how I know. But these were C, okay? And, older houses, tougher demographics, so a lot more maintenance, okay? If I had to send someone to one of my apartment complexes and I had several apartment complexes back then as well. If I had to send someone to one of my apartment complexes, we could stockpile parts, plumbing parts, electrical parts, HVAC, appliance parts, window locks, door locks, could have it all there. So they have a maintenance issue. They're in and out in an hour, my maintenance guy. Well, if I had to send a maintenance guy an hour one way or longer in some cases, an hour and a half sometimes, they have to see what's wrong because every house is different. And they can't stockpile parts for every house. Impossible. Then they have to go find a Home Depot or a Lowe's where we have an account. And I don't know about you, but when Rod's happy ass tries to fix something, he ends up going to Home Depot more than once because he forgets something. But anyway, what took an hour at one of my apartment complexes took all day at one of my 800 houses. So I never really cash flowed much at all. And so, and then the last thing was I didn't pay attention to tenant demographics back then. If they had a good job, they had good credit, and they paid a deposit, I let them rent. I mean, hello. Well, I discovered that I had a lot of contractors. I had plumbers, electricians, drywallers, painters, roofers, and that fell off a cliff in 2008. They didn't have work. So it was like the perfect storm. And you want to hear something crazy? So I was at a 30% loan to value. By the end of 2009, my portfolio was upside down. It had dropped insane. More than 70%.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally ridiculous.
Oh, I know.
If you tell anybody 30% LTV, with that information alone, they would say, there's no way you could ever, you couldn't go under.
But see, here's the thing, as it relates to multifamily. Okay, my multifamily did just fine. It pulled back about 11%, but it could have easily survived. Of course, in my brilliance, I cross-collateralized packages of houses with my multifamily to save 50 basis points, which is a 0.5% interest, by the way, if you don't know what that means. Because I thought I was brilliant. Okay, I'm going to save 50% interest or 0.5% interest. So I lost everything. I lost the apartment complexes too. But they would have survived if I hadn't done that. And that's the reason I started my podcast, I don't know, about 8 years ago. I'm like, hey, if you're going to buy and hold, now, if you're flipping wholesale, and fantastic. Do houses, do whatever you want. But if you're going to buy and hold, for God's sakes, do multi, don't do single. Just look at me as the poster child for that. And because if you've got a vacancy in a even a fourplex, you can very often survive, and cash flow.
Yep.
And of course, the larger, the safer. And so that's why I started my podcast back then. That was the reason.
Yeah.
Just to get that message out there. In fact, I used to say on my early episodes, I'm never going to sell you anything. I just want to add value, which was the truth. Now I'm a liar because I sell boot camps and courses and coaching and everything, but I never planned to.
Yeah.
When I hit 1 million downloads, I'm like, maybe I should do something with it.
For sure. And people start asking, right?
Yeah.
They want you to do it.
I did free phone calls with my listeners, and I did hundreds of them. 30 minutes. I said, 30 minutes, I'll call, talk to you about anything, help you with anything in your life. And I had nothing to sell. And so I was sending them to somebody I knew that taught people, and they're like, please do something, and like, okay, finally. And then I wrote my book, and I've given away literally, I don't know, probably close to 100,000 copies of my book.
Yeah, and you fed like 130,000 children, I think.
Oh, no, that's a whole different story.
We'll get into that.
That's a whole different story. Let's end with that.
We'll end with that. Yeah. On the real estate, I'm curious. So did you lose everything? Was it all gone? Did you own any real estate in let's say everything. 10, 11, 12?
Everything.
So it's all gone?
Everything.
Okay.
Well, I had some free and clear houses in Memphis. We can talk about Memphis if you like. I don't even want to fly over Memphis airspace anymore. I had 200 houses in Memphis. Wow. And I don't want to dog Memphis because everybody knows I dog Memphis at my boot camps. But I probably have, probably 8 to 10 houses left there because they were free and clear. So but they're like stepchildren for me.
Sure.
But anyway, no, everything else I lost.
When we look at, you rebuilding your portfolio to where you are today, obviously when that all happened, you went and you started these companies, right? That were cash flowing. You talked about having the 80 employees and this, that.
Yeah, I started that company.
Yeah.
I didn't start multiple companies.
Okay, so you started that company. And then was for people watching, like, did you just start to take some of the cash that you were making with that company and start buying real estate again to rebuild this portfolio? How did it work?
No, that's the beautiful thing about multifamily. It doesn't take your own money.
Right.
I raised the money.
It's all OPM.
No, I raised the money for the thousands and thousands of apartments that I have now. With my platform, I build credibility by like you do with hosting a platform. Even when I wasn't a super expert in the multi-space, when I first started the podcast, I'm not going to profess that I was an expert. I'd owned some decent sized apartment complexes. I didn't have anything over 100 units at the time. Now I've had 400 unit complexes, but so I kind of fake it till you make it a little bit. But I interviewed some of the best people on the planet, billionaires and guys with 10, 20,000 doors, and you become pretty good at it like you do. When you talk to some of the best on the planet at this stuff, and so. What you'll learn, that's the beautiful thing about what I teach in multifamily, is you raise the money for these deals. Even the earnest money, even what's called the at-risk capital, the earnest money, the costs for the financing, the due diligence costs, people will put that up. I just put it up on a deal that I closed with my team, and I get 10% of that deal for putting up the money to take it down. So these guys didn't have a dime in it. I put up $600,000 for that. Now, actually, it was more like almost $660,000, including all the costs. So that's called the at-risk capital. Yep. So you can raise that. Then you raise the equity that goes into the deal. Equity is the difference between the purchase price and the loan amount. And in my world, in single family, you think equity, okay, you own a $100,000 house, you owe $50,000 on it, you have $50,000 in equity. In my space, the equity is another word for cash out of pocket when you're buying a property, okay? And that's to be the down payment, the closing costs, the any capital expenditure money you raise. So you raise all that money.
Sure.
And this is what I teach my students. My students have raised the money for these 200,000+ doors they own.
When you got back into real estate after you lost it all, you build this company, you back into real estate. Did you never touch another single family again? Was this all multifamily from there? Never. What was that first deal you bought once you were getting back on your feet again? Do you remember that first deal?
Yeah, it's an interesting deal actually. It was a 101 unit complex in Dayton, Ohio. It's actually a wealthy suburb of Dayton, Ohio. And there's an interesting story with that. And we raised the money for it and so on and so forth. But a few months after we bought it, it got destroyed by a tornado. I mean, destroyed. All 101 families had to move. In fact, I flew there the next day.
Wow.
And I'm driving down the road. I'm like, there's no damage. And then I see my complex. I'm like, holy shit. Oh, yeah. And everybody was moving out. They'd shut the power off, the water off. And I saw this woman carrying clothes out. And I said, were you here when it happened? She said, yes. My son was up in his bedroom, on his phone, screwing around. And thank God for the early warning system, because it went off. By the time he got downstairs and woke me up, his bedroom was gone. Wow. And I can show you a picture of it after we're done here. Yeah, it's a trip. And I'm looking up, holy crap, yeah, there was just like a tub in this empty spot where his bedroom was. So
that's insane.
So everybody had to move. But here's the interesting thing. And this is, in my world, in your world, the value is based on comps, comparable sales, right? In the single family wholesaling, flipping. Yep. In my world, the value is based on a multiple of the net income. Any increase to the net income is an exponential increase to the value. It's like $17 to $20 to every $1 in increase in income.
Sure.
Okay, it's called the NOI, the net operating income. And so we were able to raise the rent. We rebuilt it, obviously. We had insurance. That's the beautiful thing about real estate. You have insurance for stuff like that. I had another property in Nashville. We had a fire in building with 22 units burned down. Thank God nobody died or got seriously injured. But at this property, 101 units, we got about, I believe, $600 rent bumps.
Wow.
That is a 10
when
to
you
12,
rebuilt it.
When we rebuilt it. That is a $10 to $12 million instant increase in value on 101 units, okay?
Yeah.
I'll give you a couple more examples of this because they're really interesting. So we've got a 296 unit in San Antonio, and we painted the parking spaces, okay? Put numbers on the parking spaces and said, hey, if you want a spot right in front of your apartment, it's $25 a month. You can reserve it, and it's yours, period. And we'll tow anybody that parks in it. We had 100 people take us up on that, okay? That was a $750,000 increase in value. 100 parking spaces, $25 a month. And I'm going to have somebody sit there and say, you can't do math, dude. What are you thinking? Well, let me give you the math so you understand this. Because when I talk about this, and I get hate online all the time, like I'm sure you do. But people are like, you're an idiot. What are you talking about? $750,000 for $2,500 a month. Well, you annualize that $2,500, and I think it's $18,000. I don't quote me on the math here, but if you annualize it and then you divide that by a 4% capitalization rate, that's a $750,000 increase in value.
Wow.
I'll give you another example. The manager, then when we took it over, did a fire inspection, and she discovered, 50, 60 pets that we didn't know about. And we love pets, but you're going to pay a little extra to have a pet because there's damage from that. And I think, it's $20, $25. Whatever it worked out to, that was about a $500,000 increase in value for some pet rent. And again, I'll get hate for that, or you will, because you greedy bastards. Well, we have a lot of costs associated with these properties, guys. Okay, insurance goes up, taxes go up, and so. Hate all you like, but that's the name of the game.
That's the name of the game. Yeah. So I want to talk a bit about like the raising capital part, and like,
sure.
you have a huge community. You teach, all kinds of people, right? You do these big events.
Yeah.
What do you teach when you teach people? When you stand up there and you're talking to a room full of people that have never done a multifamily deal in their life, right? What do you tell them to do? How do you tell them to get started? Do you coach people to do single family first and then do multifamily? Or
no, it's all multi. It's all multi. And so. No, I mean, there's a lot of little pieces to this, okay? So I teach at my boot camps. I've got one in Orlando in November, by the way, and I'll give your peeps a hell of a deal. They use your name, they can get a hell of a deal. But I teach how to pick a team, put a team together. In fact, I have a book on that. Questions you ask before you get in a partnership. And by the way, if you go to rodslinks.com, rodsprolinkspro.com, there's a bunch of free books there. And these are best-in-class books, not some hyperbole white paper crap that people do to get email addresses. These are really good books. And so I lost my train. So how to build a team, how to pick a market, how to evaluate that market to make sure it's where you should be investing. How to find deals, how to evaluate those deals, how to underwrite those deals. This is at my boot camps. Okay, how to finance those deals, to borrow money on them, how to syndicate, how to joint venture, and then of course how to raise all the money you need for your deals. Even how to property manage. And of course, I spend a lot of time on mindset. That's the reason my students are so freaking successful. They actually take action with it. But yeah, there's a lot of pieces to this. And that's why it's a team sport, because you're not going to be good at everything. And you're just not. I haven't met anybody today that has done this on their own. They all put a team together to go buy these things. And that's the beautiful thing about this as well. When you're buying a house or if you're buying to live in typically, and the flipping and wholesaling, you probably use hard money and things like that. But, they're looking at your debt to income to qualify. In my space, they don't care about your debt to income. They want to make sure the property can service the debt. It's called a debt service coverage ratio. They want to make sure that if you die or get hit by a truck or whatever, that the property can support the debt. And so, and they're not looking at individual people so much as they're looking at the team. Okay, because there are requirements to borrow the money. You typically have to have a net worth equal to the loan amount. You have to have post-closing liquidity equal to about 10% of the loan amount, but it's the teams. So if you want to go out and do this, and you've got to have some experience if you're going to get like a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan, which are the best loans for these. I don't get too far in the weeds with this, but you got to have somebody who's got some experience with that. But you can find one person as a sponsor that satisfies all those requirements. Like I do it all the time. Out of my or over 5,000 doors, I think. They're pretty much all done with students, and I'll step in and do that piece or get involved in some fashion. But they're called sponsors, and most people will get into my space and they'll do the first deal or two with someone like a sponsor, and then they're off to the races because they've got their own resume now. They've got net worth because they've accumulated net worth by just buying some assets, and they're off to the races. And so,
what's your favorite type of multifamily when it comes down to class A, B, C, or D?
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
You like the luxury?
No. That's what Grant Cardone does. Grant loves the luxury stuff, and he banks it. That's called a yield play.
What do you think about Grant?
Grant cracks me up, man. I mean, I think he's funny as hell. My ex-wife just saw him in the south of France 2 days ago. Him and Elena are there, right? She was there with some girlies. And I'm like, go up and say hi to him. He knows who I am, and she was afraid. But anyway, no, I mean, I crack up every time I talk to Grant. Grant. I think I pissed Grant off in my last interview with him because I had a vet call in and say, should we use our VA to buy a fourplex? And he's like, no, buy a 16 unit. I'm like, dude, it's no money down for a fourplex. Why would you say that? Just get started, right? He didn't like that. But no, he said hi at his whatever he calls his event.
The 10X Growth Con.
10X Growth Con. He said hi. I paid $20,000 to be in the front just for that.
Because he mainly buys Class A, right?
So let me tell you something. So Grant buys Class A banking on appreciation. Well, and he doesn't like value add. I do value add. I'll explain what that is in a second. So he's banking on rents to go up. Well, I'm going to tell you, with this economy,
he can't improve them because they're already Class A.
They're already Class A.
Right.
And so he did a post on social, and he said, I don't fix up properties. I buy the best and bank on rents. I go, well, rents aren't going to go up that much for the next couple of years. And if we have the crash that I think is coming, they're really not going to go up for a while. And so, I did a reaction video. You see those reaction videos where I'll listen to something and I'll say, well,
I think I watched yours with Grant.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good video though. You had nothing bad to say.
No, I love Grant.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say anything bad about him, but I said I disagree with him on this because I believe in value add. Value add means you buy a place, you improve it, you fix it up, you get the rents up, you get your net income up, and you instantly increase the value.
You force the appreciation.
You force the appreciation.
Got
so
it.
that's what I like to do. And so that's what I said. Grant commented and said, by the way, I'm renovating 2,000 units right now, so I agree with you. But no, I like Grant.
So do you like buying Class B?
No. Here's what I buy. Thanks. That's right. So I'm afraid of Class C right now.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. I mean, inflation is killing people. Now let's talk about the economy for a second. Well, I want to circle over to that, but
we will.
I buy Class C in a B area.
Okay.
Or I buy Class B in an A area. Okay. I don't want D. I've had D properties where people get killed in them, behind them, around them, where they cut a hole in the door to pass the crack through. I bought a whole block, and there was a hole in the door to pass the crack through. They put concrete pilings at the end of this street in Denver to slow down the drug traffic, not to stop it, just to slow it down. You don't need that freaking brain damage.
Right.
Okay. Life's too short. Now people don't listen to me. They'll end up buying that crap, and they regret it every single time.
Yep.
But I'm worried about Class C as well. Here's why. Inflation is killing people. I'm single now, and I didn't have to buy my grocery store. I don't go to the grocery store, and I'm like, $150 for that?
Yeah.
Are you freaking kidding me? And the clerk just shakes her head. And, it cost me $150 to fill up my truck? How do people afford that, right?
I don't think they do for very much longer.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, right now there are actually this was about a year ago, there are 20 million families behind in their utility bills.
Wow.
20 million families, okay? Now, I want to buy a C property in a B area that I can convert to a B property. Does that make sense? You can't change the area, but you can change the asset. You can change we call them assets. You can change the property. So if I buy a C property, I want to be able to build it up to a B. Or if I buy a B, I want to be able to build it up to an A. So that's what I focus on. I don't want a C area. And here's why, because they're living paycheck to paycheck, and they're struggling.
One thing will take them out.
That's it.
And then you lose all your tenants.
That's it. And I mean, I've taken over some properties from an ex-partner and some other partners that have begged me to step in and help in some asset management. These some C properties. They're in big trouble because these people are struggling. Yeah. And so let's talk about inflation for a second.
Let's do that.
This is going to blow your mind. In the last 4 years, we have created 80% of the currency in this country. Up to, you knew this?
It's insane.
Up to 2020, 20% of the money supply was there.
Yeah.
We have printed the other 80% in the last 4 years.
Wow.
And we're wondering why there's freaking inflation, okay? I mean, hello. I don't think the Fed can do a damn thing about it. They're lying about it anyway. Do you realize that right now, we're paying $1 trillion a year in interest on our national debt.
Yep.
Okay, and our national debt is going up $1 trillion every 100 days.
It's insane.
Go online, if you're listening. Go online and look up the difference between $1 million, $1 billion, and $1 trillion. It will blow your mind how much $1 trillion is. Okay. At some point, the piper's going to get paid.
Yeah.
Now, I'll give you some headlines. J.P. Morgan, the head of J.P. Morgan Chase, arguably, Jamie Dimon, arguably is the largest bank in the world. The only ones that are bigger are state-owned Chinese banks. So, biggest bank in the world said the U.S. is driving toward a cliff as debt snowballs. Brace yourself for an economic hurricane. Head of Clinton's economist that predicted the '08 crash warns of a coming greater depression. This is in Fortune magazine. I'm not making this crap up. The chief economist at Citigroup says the economy could reach levels of that's Donald Trump. Donald Trump said it, love him or hate him, said we could reach levels of the Great Depression, but the Citigroup guy said we're headed for a hard landing. So, Elon.
Yep.
I saw self-driving cars around. It was cool. I've never seen that before. I even did a little post
with nobody
about
in them.
Yeah, nobody in them. Right,
Waymo.
just driving around. Yeah, it was cool. But Elon said that arguably a pretty smart guy said they're lying to you. It's going to be a bigger crash than they're telling you. Okay. Everybody. Here's the headline. Everybody's lying. A bigger crash is coming. And so listen. I'm not trying to scare you. If you're listening, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to get you freaking excited
and prepared, right?
Prepared, hell yeah. If I hadn't been hiding under a rock, back when 08-09 happened, I'd be on the back of a 300-foot yacht right now, okay? That's when the big money is made, when the shit hits the fan.
Yep.
And exponential opportunity. But you got to get up to speed. You got to get prepared. You got to pick your vehicle right now. So you got to decide, because everything's going on sale. If this happens like I think it could, there'll be great opportunity to buy businesses. There's 80 million baby boomers, and some of those guys own businesses. They want to sell. They want to get out. And so that's an opportunity. I wish there was another one of me. That I'd be buying businesses. Any real estate. And so you got to decide how you're going to capitalize on this, because here's the thing. Yes, there's inflation, but inflation helps somebody that is buying real estate that they rent, because rents are going up. You buy a property, even if you think it's high now, you lock that debt in at a certain amount of debt, your property value is going to go up because rents are going to continue. They have to go up.
Yeah.
We have become a renter nation, and there's a huge shortage of housing.
How much of a shortage? A couple million?
Oh, no, it's like 4 million.
Wow.
4 million, and it's getting more every single year. And here's the problem, because the interest rate bump gone up, new development is dropped off a cliff.
Builders don't want to build.
No, they can't afford to right now. They have to wait. And so I think there's going to be a huge surge here, like in 2026, unless in single family prices. Yeah. Okay, I do believe single family is hopefully will be okay with all this. But like right now, there's this huge disparity between a mortgage payment and rent, even with the high rents, because of the interest rates. So, who knows how that's all going to shake out. But I know in my space, in the commercial multifamily, there's a lot of pain. A lot of guys in trouble.
Where's that pain coming from?
Yeah, let me explain. A lot of these guys that put deals together got adjustable rate debt because, see, the big players in that space are Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They do what's called non-recourse debt, meaning if they foreclose, they don't come after you, okay? Non-recourse debt. But the properties have to be stabilized in good shape, and they know what the hell they're doing. And they dropped the loan to value that you could get from 80% down to 60%. It came down in steps. And so operators would get this, what's called bridge debt. It's like the hard money lending in single family space. It's that kind of money, okay? Hard money, high interest rate, short term, like 1 to 3 years. And it's adjustable rate. And they're getting killed. And I'm in a couple of them. My ex-partner put me in a couple of them. We're doing a loan mod on one of them right now. 2 of them right now. Yeah. Pain in the butt.
And people didn't buy interest rate caps.
No. Well, see, that's the other thing. Let's talk about interest rate caps for a minute. Yes, some of them required it, but some people didn't. We were looking at an asset in San Antonio, a small one, just because we already have property there. And the guy's reserve payment to his lender, because the lender's like, hey, you better get some money put together to pay for this cap that you're going to have to pay for when this loan comes due. His reserve payment went from $8,000 to $80,000 a month.
Wow.
Is that painful?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so let me give you a stat, because I actually brought it with me about rate caps. So what you'll do when you get an adjustable rate loan is you'll buy what you said, a rate cap. And a lot of people don't understand that. But basically what a rate cap does is it locks your rate from going up more than a certain amount, so many points or so many percents interest over a certain period of time. Okay. So in 2020, a 3-year, 3% rate cap for a $100 million loan costs $23,000. Wow. So you could buy a $100 million 3% 3-year rate cap. Your rate's not going to go up more than 3% in 3 years for $23,000. That rate cap, this was about a year ago I pulled this. That same rate cap right now, or back then, was $2.3 million. It's more than that now. Wow. Forget 3 years, that's 1 year. 1 year was $2.3 million.
Wow.
So here's the thing. You got a lot of operators that got that crappy debt, and they either have to refinance or they have to sell. Okay. Sales are down 90% right now in commercial real estate. They're way down. Okay. To refinance, you've got to satisfy debt service coverage requirements, meaning the income has to be more than 125% of what your debt payments are. Yep. And if the interest rate's up, that's really hard. So these guys are having to put money in just to have a lender sniff the loan, okay? Then they got to buy a rate cap. So, I mean, a lot of operators are struggling. Tough. So there's opportunity. I mean, we just closed on a deal next to a mile away from the 296 unit in San Antonio, 200 unit, screaming deal. Like I call it a unicorn. But they're starting to come. We got it for about a 40% discount.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because distressed seller.
Yeah. He ran out of money, and so that's starting to happen, and it's going to be more and more. Which is why I'm saying, if there was ever a time to get into this business and or pick a vehicle, it's right now. Do you mind if I mention my boot camp?
Of course.
Okay.
Talk about it.
So I've got it's the only live event I do a year. It's November 8th, 9th, and 10th in Orlando. And I go through 3 days drinking through a freaking fire hose. I'm not one of these guys that teases you with crap. It's everything. Bring your A game because it's you're going to drink through a fire hose. But go through every aspect of this business like I described. And if you go to rodinorlando.com, or if you're driving, text the word links to 72345, and you'll go to my link tree, and my boot camp site is there. And if you use the code Austin when you check out, you can come for $197 for 3 days of training. Tell me your freaking excuse, okay?
100%.
I mean, you got to pay for the travel, but Orlando's not a horrible place to go to in November anyway.
Stop at Disney World while you're
yeah,
at it,
right.
you know?
But exactly, bring the kids, go to Disney. But again, bring your A game. But use the code Austin to check out for $197.
And I'll put the link down below too.
Yeah, thanks, bud. Yeah, so rodinorlando.com. But if you go to that Rod's Links, which is what you'll get if you text links to 72345, go to rodslinks.com. There's a ton of free resources there. My podcast is there. If you're interested in multifamily, I highly recommend you subscribe to my podcast because, and I spend time on mindset too, even if you're not interested in multifamily. I do little clips every week called Own Your Power, and they're 5-minute clips. You give me 5 minutes a week, I'll juice your ass, I promise, okay? Because, and that's why the show's been so successful. It's, people don't remember what you say, they remember how you made them feel. But
do you think interest rates are going to come back down soon?
A little bit,
okay,
but not enough to be hugely impactful. They can't because of inflation.
Right.
I mean, we printed 80% of the money.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
I mean, there's nothing I think they can do.
Yeah.
And at some point, God forbid, something's going to get really ugly. It has to with all this debt. I don't know. Maybe they go to digital currency. Who the hell knows how they got to pull out of it? But I mean, we could see hyperinflation.
Yeah.
And
if we haven't already.
But again, don't get scared by this. Get your butt up to speed. Decide how you're going to capitalize on this, and get up to speed so that you can take advantage of it, because this is exponential money is made when this happens. Like I said, my portfolio went down 70%. Well, it's probably up at 250% from that time now, that those houses. And so everything is going to go back down, but it'll come back up. So, and cash is king and when that happens. In a crisis, cash is king. But with crisis comes incredible opportunity. So, but if you don't get sucked into the fear, because the news will paint it like it's going to be horrible forever. I remember in 2008, they said real estate's going to be terrible for 10 years. Well, it wasn't.
Yeah.
In fact, rents exceeded pre-crash levels in less than 3 years, okay, from that big crash. And that was a big one. So, but you got to get up to speed. So I don't care if it's with me or not, but, maybe it's flipping, wholesaling with you, whatever it is, decide how you're going to capitalize and get your ass going.
100%. Come to the boot camp, get going, get rocking. When we look at markets, I'm just curious, when it comes to multifamily, when you talk to people, because like with single family, right? Like when somebody's like, what market do I pick? I'm like, well,
I get that question all the time.
Go in your own backyard with single family.
Let me give you the markets I select.
With multifamily, where do you like to?
Let me give you this is what I teach. Okay, this is one of the topics I teach. Where to buy.
Yep.
And I'll tell you the states that I own properties in first, but then I'll tell you how you should look at this. So I own properties a lot in Texas, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. It's my biggest market. I have stuff in Georgia, a couple spots in Atlanta that I'm helping asset manage that I don't own, that are struggling, but I've got one northeast of Atlanta that's killing it. So be careful in Atlanta. Love the Carolinas, North and South Carolina. Of course, Florida, I've got assets there. Ohio, I've got assets in Ohio, Indiana. So I like all of those markets, okay? I like
Those
South.
are mostly all red states.
You want to go there?
Well, I mean,
I will not invest in a blue state.
Simply just due to the fact, obviously there's a lot of reasons, but just landlord laws. If we just focused on that, typically, in a red state, you're going to have better landlord laws.
No question.
Yeah.
No question.
Yep.
And I won't invest in a blue state. That's not a political thing, although I'm definitely red on the political spectrum. But I won't invest in a blue state. Why would you? Yeah. They're broke, number one, because they tax the shit out of you, and they have no choice but to tax you more to try to fix their fiscal stupidity. And their regulations are ridiculous. Yeah. They're landlord averse. Elon
just said he's leaving California. Did you see that?
Yeah. There
He
you go.
said, I'm moving my whole operation. We're done.
Yeah, and I don't blame him. And so, and again, if you live in one of those states, I love you, and it's all good. But I'd consider investing elsewhere. I just would. It's easier, and I mean, it's lower hanging fruit, and you're not killing yourself dealing with these onerous regulations. It's stupid, and these laws. So, but those are the states I like. But let me tell you, this is what I teach at my boot camps. To pick a market, you start with your backyard, obviously, duh. And your backyard's a 2-hour drive in any direction because you can manage it with day travel.
Sure.
So that'd be option 1 for sure. Option 2 would be a place you grew up or you spent time, went to school, whatever. For me, it's Denver.
You're familiar.
Exactly. Yeah. You're familiar with it. That's definitely the second best option. Option 3 would be a place where you've got family or friends. You've got boots on the ground. They know what's going on. They got the ear to the ground. They know whose business is moving in, moving out. They're in tune with that, and they can help you if you need some help. So that's option 3. Then the fourth option would be, a place you might want to retire, a place you enjoy visiting, so you have a reason to go there. Those are the first 4 I would choose. Now, if you live in California, don't invest in freaking Boston or vice versa. There's enough low-hanging fruit near you that's stupid to have full-day travel when you invest. But that's kind of, and then I teach what to look for in those markets. You want to make sure 3 things are growing: population, income, and jobs. Yep. And there are websites for that I teach, that make it pretty easy. And I'll just tell you, since we're on the show here, bestplaces.net is one, city-data.com is another one, and datausa.com is another one. Those are 3 sites. You can pull in demographical information, have fun with it, and see if those things are growing. Jobs is the number one thing. Everything circulates around jobs.
Are companies going there, or are they leaving?
That's it. Right? And you want to see employment diversity. Okay, like I told you, I got my butt handed to me because I didn't pay attention to tenant demographics where they worked.
One demographic.
That's it. Well, if they all work at the same place, like no one-horse towns, and even a military-based town, if that's the big draw there. If that horse gets sick or leaves town, you're screwed. And so you want a lot of employment industry diversity, okay? Yeah. And so that, that if somebody leaves, it doesn't impact your ability to rent property. So, those are some high-level things. I go much deeper at the boot camp, but yeah.
I've got another question. Grant, we talked about it a little while ago, but, Grant talks about, like you were saying, that 4-unit deal, right? And you always hear Grant talk about 32-unit minimum, don't even... Would you say that when you're coaching new people, is it the same, like when we're looking at the amount of energy, effort, and work that it takes to do a deal, right? When we're looking at let's just say a 20-unit deal or a 150-unit deal, should everybody try to just go for the bigger one? Like, does it?
Nobody does, because we have what's called a courage muscle, okay? Yeah. And typically someone will start with some houses. They'll buy a Plex, then they might buy a 10-unit, and then maybe they'll go to a 50 and a 100, okay? I've met maybe 3 or 4 people that started with 100, okay? It's unusual because we have that courage muscle, and it's okay. But the key is get freaking started, okay? And when I said the 4-plex to that vet, the only reason I said that to Grant was because it's no money down. They have no money down financing. It doesn't get any better than that. Literally nothing out of pocket. You can buy a 4-plex. Hello. But I asked that question at my podcast, okay? And I've interviewed literally the best operators on the planet for multifamily on my podcast. And I try to remember to ask this, and I want my listeners to hear it from them, not from me, okay? And I say, what would you do if you told 18-year-old self something? You know that question, right? And the answer is always go bigger, faster, right? And they always regret every deal they sold, unless it's in a market they don't like. Like for me, that would be Shreveport and Memphis. Horrible experiences there. But they regret that, my first interview was a billionaire named Albert Beres. And it's a funny story, actually. My first interview. And I'm an hour in, and I look down, and I forgot to hit the freaking record button. Oh, I got billionaire. I'm like, I was mortified. Yeah. So that's a real negative anchor for me. I never miss a recording now. But anyway, he was real cool. He's been on the show like 3 times. But he told me something that I love, and he said, and I stole this from him, like, I'm a real estate buyer, not a seller. And I'll just tell you another funny aside. So I invited him. I have a mastermind. It's probably got $40, $50 billion worth of assets represented by the members. It's the largest multifamily mastermind in existence, I'm sure. And we invited him to speak there. And my assistant called his assistant and said, we're going to fly him down first class. We're going to put him up at the Ritz-Carlton. We're so excited he's coming. And his assistant, Nina, goes, it's okay. He'll fly his own jet down. It's fine. I'm like, yeah, baby.
Heck yeah.
Anyway,
that's awesome. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think people should just get started, and I think think now is the best time in the world to get started, right?
People think it's too high.
Yeah.
Listen, like this interest rate, oh my God, it's 7-8%. Listen, when I was 18, it was 18%.
Yeah.
Okay. When it hit 7%, we're like, holy crap, it's 7%. We're doing backflips.
Yeah.
To give you some context. Okay. So don't get caught up in the interest rate. It's all numbers. My business is empirical. It's numbers. If the numbers make sense, it doesn't matter what the rate is. Okay. If you study the number, well, not study, but if you pay attention to the numbers and you ask all the right questions, it's pretty hard to make a big mistake in my multifamily space, okay? And that's why it requires somebody that enjoys numbers, that loves spreadsheets, and somebody that's outgoing that can build those relationships. Again, those are matches made in heaven.
Yep.
And,
Do you dabble in any other type of, whether
I'm
it be
very familiar with mobile home
retail,
parks. Yeah.
mobile storage?
I'm very familiar with retail and mobile home parks. I haven't really done much of it. I'm actually interested in build to rent. Okay, my son's getting his GC license. I said, dude, get it. Let's have some fun. We'll build some stuff.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, and probably in Florida. He wants to come back to Florida. But I'm very familiar with those asset classes, and I think there's money to be made in any asset class. I wouldn't do office. Okay, office is getting their butt.
And you think it'll continue to get hammered office?
I tell you, I don't know, but I can tell you, people don't want to work in an office anymore.
Yeah.
They can work at home. They can have an office. They can go on Zoom. It's like you almost know who they are, on Zoom. And so, I mean, right now the office occupancy, I think in the country is at like 60, 65% across the whole nation.
Yeah.
These properties don't break even unless they're 80%. See, that's another thing. About a third of all commercial real estate debt is held by small and regional banks. I think we're going to see some more bank failures. I'm certain of it, actually. I think it's inevitable. We're going to see some more bank failures. Like right now, I have my money at a clearinghouse bank that spreads it out over 80 banks and doesn't put more than $250 in each bank. So it's under the FDIC limit. So if any one of those banks fail, I'm okay. I'm covered by the FDIC. And so, if you have big deposits somewhere, I'd encourage you to look at that, because even I will tell you, back in 08 and 9, they let Lehman crash. So they could very easily let a big bank crash as well. Okay. Just to, so be careful, with your money right now. And I will tell you, even if you're thinking of investing passively in multifamily, get your butt to my boot camp. Why would you go and give your hard-earned money to someone if you don't understand it? You see these people invest in the stock market. They haven't got a clue what they're investing in. They're getting sold by some guy that's great at selling, you stocks. They're salespeople. Stockbrokers are salespeople. Have a basic understanding. And I promise you, if you come to my boot camp or you study this online, whatever it is, take some time to learn it before you give your hard-earned money to someone that can lose it. Because right now, there are some operators losing everybody's money because they got that crappy debt.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the number one thing that you think people do wrong when they get into multifamily?
They dabble. They don't learn it. They they'll take people's money and they dabble and they don't take the time to really study it. They're undercapitalized. Like they'll buy an asset and they think they can get the fix-up money from the cash flow. No, you raise that money. Like we're just closing out this 200 unit I bought at a 40% discount a mile away from the other 296 unit we have in San Antonio, and we raised $12.5 million for that. And $4 million of that is our fix-up money to turn this thing in. I mean, it's going to be freaking gorgeous when it's done. But you raise that money. And we're just closing it out right now. And so, that's how it's done in my business. You raise the money for the down payment, the closing costs. It's called CapEx. That's $4 million in fix-up. It's called capital expenditure, CapEx. Operating reserve. We have a 6-month operating reserve of 6 months worth of expenses in case the shit hits the fan. We've got some comfort there. That's why people fail, is they don't do all that. They don't have an operating reserve. Yeah. They try to fund the fix-up or they underestimate the capital expenditures. You can get bids for this stuff. You can do it the right way.
Yeah.
This is all the stuff I teach. But
sure, yeah. No, you go into full 3-day detail.
Oh, yeah, it's 3 days of this.
Talk about so much.
It's 3 days, but I don't care if you learn from me, but God, if you're listening, from somebody. If you're listening, for God's sakes, pick something and take advantage of what's coming, because it could be the greatest transfer of wealth we see in our lifetimes and the greatest opportunity we see in our lifetimes. So, if you're up to speed. And like I said, in 2008, 2009, I was around people that were killing it. I mean, killing it, because they'd prepared. and and they were giving me shit, and again, that's the whole peer group conversation. But you want to be around people that aren't fearful when this happens, because there'll be a lot of fear, and then again, the media will try to magnify the fear. They don't, people think the media is there to inform us and educate us. No, it's there to scare the shit out of us.
Sure.
They don't
program us.
Yeah, don't get me started on the
don't get me started
on the censorship and the propaganda. But that we could spend hours on that.
I go just a couple more questions. One is just real quick, Rod. A lot of people are scared to raise capital, right? Like I hear it all the time.
Let's talk about that.
Like they're like, I don't think I could raise capital. Like I don't think I could. Like can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
I don't know why it scares people so much. Well, I'll be honest, it scared me at first. Now that I'm thinking about it, but it's building relationships. And so, and I teach my students and even at the boot camp, how to create a brand. We live in the greatest time on earth to create reach. You've got like over 500,000 IG followers.
I do.
I've got millions and millions of, followers as well. And you don't need that many. There are so many ways to do this. Now, you can just do it by networking. Maybe if you're in the IT space, or you're in the medical space, or you're in the athletic space, people that have money. So what you do is you educate yourself, and you just again, I teach all this, but I'll try to do a high level thing on it. You create an elevator pitch where, you want to be asked the question, what do you do? All right. So you'll ask them, so what do you do? And then they'll say, so what do you do? Well, I'm glad you asked. Well, you don't say that, but you say,
maybe you do.
But you say, listen, I'm starting to buy multifamily. There's incredible opportunity coming with this current economic environment, and is super excited about it. And I'm always looking for partners, by the way. So if you know anybody, that's it. There's your pitch, right?
And then
it's that freaking simple. And well, tell me more. Yeah. And one of the things I give at my boot camp is this sample deal package that you can print. It's like a PDF that you can hand somebody if you're really nervous about talking about it. Say, hey, this is the kind of stuff we buy, I'll send it to you by email. You can see what the kind of stuff we buy, and if you have an interest, let me know. But see, the thing is, you can do it networking one-on-one. If you've got a big network from your W-2 job, some of my most successful students just do it, from their network already. But if you don't, it's so freaking easy to create reach.
Yeah.
I've got 50,000 people in a Facebook group. You've got your, and I don't have quite the following you've got on IG, but it's respectable. But you only need a few hundred people that you're adding value to. And here's the key. And this is what I teach. And my students even get a course on this called Crushing It in Social Media. But it's there's two simple things here. You've got to add value, okay? And you've got to be consistent. That's it. So you pick your vehicle, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever it is, and you add value and you're consistent. Now, if you put crap out there, if you do a bunch of chat GPT crap, you're going to be crap. But if you take your time, you can host people like you do and I do. You can even act as if, I talk about this, you can act as if you're already successful by being a host of something, hosting a YouTube channel, hosting a podcast. I've got dozens of podcasters in my Warrior coaching program that, some award-winning podcasters that are my students that, they bring me on, or they bring other experts on.
The law of association.
And it's right. By virtue of the fact that they're hosting it, they're perceived as an expert, right? And so that's something you can do. So, but the key is you got to add value. And you've got to be, I tell my students, if they hold still long enough, they should know what it is you do. At the soccer game, at the church, at whatever. Talk about what it is you do. Get comfortable with it. And success is inevitable. It really is. And you think it's hard, but there's so much money in the sidelines. And I will tell you, the first thing to crash when this happens that I think's coming is going to be the stock market. And so if you're listening, you've got a lot of money in the stock market, I'd encourage you to get it the hell out, okay? Because if you take that money and you put it in a fixed asset like real estate, inflation is your friend. And I just told you, 80% of the money's been printed in the last 4 years. Inflation is not going away. And rents go up with inflation. So much safer, in my opinion, than the stock market. But of course, I'm a little biased, but I really believe that what I'm stating is accurate here.
What's a couple more questions and we'll wrap. I guess 3 more questions. Okay. I have to ask, what do you think about crypto and Bitcoin?
I don't know a thing about it.
Okay. All right, cool.
I know what Warren Buffett said about it.
Okay.
He's not stupid.
You're a real estate guy.
I'm a real estate. Every time I get out of my lane, I get my ass handed to me. Okay. Again, I've built 28 businesses: carpet cleaning, frozen yogurt shops, carpet credit repair, gold buying store. Just the dumbest shit ever. But real estate is my baby. I know I'm smart enough now to stay in my freaking lane.
Love that. And then What is the goal now? And then maybe talk a little bit about
goal now.
philanthropy.
What do you mean?
Your goal. So like, what's the goal? I mean, now
listen,
here you are.
I have a wall behind my desk, and this is going to sound self-serving, but trust me, it's not. This is the truth for me. I have a wall behind my desk with hundreds and hundreds of thank you cards from students and people whose lives have been impacted. It's my greatest gift. And my goal is, I've created dozens. I should count how many millionaires I've created. Hundreds. It's got to be hundreds. And so, that feels fucking good,
it does,
man.
Yeah.
It feels good. But let me share a couple of things with you that'll tie into the second thing you wanted to ask me. The most important emotion that we have available to us to achieve what we want in life and to have a magnificent life is gratitude. Okay? It strengthens our immune system. It lowers our blood pressure. It brings us closer to our spirituality, and it's how you manifest everything you want in life, okay? So most mornings I will do a little ritual. Well, I'll just sit in my recliner, or I'll even do it at bed sometimes, and I'll just be grateful. I'll be grateful for the people I love in my life. I'll be grateful for my students, my foundation, and then I'll do gratitude for the things that I want as if I already have them. And sometimes I'll get emotional being grateful for things I don't even have yet. And I know I lost some of you analytical ones on that one, but this is how I had 50 million to lose and how I got it back. So ignore it at your peril, okay? It freaking works. That's how you manifest. Some people call it prayer, call it whatever you want, but that's how you get what you want in life. So gratitude, use it every single day. Now I'll share a story with you. When I moved to Denver, Denver's great, beautiful mountains and everything, but I knew I always wanted to live on the beach. And I would visualize palm trees and the surf and the sand. 20 years later, I built this incredible, what's probably now about a $25 million mansion on the beach. At the time, it cost me $3 million, but 10,000 square foot. I owned the beach on one side, and I had my boats on the backside. It's called a Gulf to Bay. It was like to slice through an island. It was unthinkable when I was 18, but I made it happen 20 years later. And just to describe this, there was a giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get to the pool. Had an elevator, giant spiral staircase up through the middle, wine cellar. I'll end it with this. On the second floor, I had aquariums built around the staircase. It cost me almost $200,000. Wow. So this gives you an idea of the house. So I worked for this for 20 years, okay? 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night. Pool's changing colors. It's got fiber optic lighting, and I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. It was to prove to the freaking world I was good enough. If that didn't do it, forget it, Right. And my family's inside sleeping, and I had the Maserati and the Mercedes and the jet skis and the boats and all this stuff, right? And I look up at this testament to my ego, and I got depressed. And this was 2 months after I built it, okay? And I'm like, what the hell? And I mean really depressed. I'm like, what the hell? I've just achieved success like times 10,000. How could I possibly feel bad right now? So here's the key. First of all, as it relates to goals, you need the goals to drive you, but it's never about the goals. Happiness comes from progress and growth. That's how you're happy. They say the happiest days of a boat owner's life, the day they buy the boat and the day they sell the boat. Okay, you need them. You need them to create that hunger and that burning desire. You got to have the goals. But that's not what's going to equate to happiness. And the second thing is you should never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it. Like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. You need a vision for your future. I didn't know what I was going to do next. But here's the big one. I'd been totally focused on me. I had to prove the world I was freaking good enough, right? So rod, all me. That's the year I went and saw Tony Robbins. This is 24 years ago in Fort Lauderdale. I went to one of his boot camps. And I found out that he fed families for the holidays. And I'm like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. I had to be embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get that memo. And so I went home and I called my brother who lived in Denver, who I was going to go see for Thanksgiving. I said, bro, let's feed 5 families. So he called his church, found 5 families that really needed help. And we went and we bought frozen turkeys and food and toys if they had kids, and had a lot of fun buying the stuff. And the third family changed my life, Austin. We go up to this house, and it's like one of these row houses. Like it's not even a 1-bedroom. You got to walk through the bedroom to get to the kitchen, which has the bathroom off, and it's just a shitty 1-bedroom. It's like built 100 years ago. There was a woman in there, Hispanic woman with 5 kids. She comes out, she sees the stuff on the porch, and she starts crying. Her kids come out, 2 of the older ones start crying. I start crying. And I was hooked. And in the last 24 years, I've fed somewhere between 150 and 160,000 children in my neighborhood in Sarasota. So cool. Now, don't tune out if you're listening. There's a real message in this, okay? This is not me bragging, okay? There's a real message here. I've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies to local kids. We're doing 2,000 next weekend, a week from today. No, today's Friday, a week from tomorrow. 2,000 backpacks filled with school supplies. We've done 20, 30,000 of them already. We've done thousands and thousands of teddy bears filled for officers to keep in their cars, police officers, if they encounter a child that's been in a traumatic situation. And the reason I bring this up is so many people, in this society we live in here in the United States, we feel like we have to achieve to be happy. Like we can't be happy until we've achieved. Okay, a lot of men specifically think that way.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you, and it's going to be a play on words, but it's an important one. If you are giving back in any fashion, you're happily achieving. Okay, and I know it's a play on words, but here's the thing. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Achievement's a science, okay? You want to learn multifamily? Get your ass to my boot camp. Boom, $200. Tell me your excuse, okay? You want to learn flipping and wholesaling? You're the best on the planet on that. But that's a science. We'll give you the map. We'll give you the blueprint. You just got to go do it, right? Yeah. You agree with me?
100%.
All right, you just got to go do it. But fulfillment's an art, okay? You got to figure out what juices you. For me, it's kids. Maybe for you, it's animals. Maybe for you, it's the elderly, the environment. Whatever it is, give back right freaking now. Don't say, okay, Rod, you had a lot of money, that's why you gave back. No, you want the money? Give back, because that's how you get the money, okay? And my most successful students are the ones that give back. We did this... and then you're happily achieving.
Yeah.
We did this Hall of Fame award for some of my warriors, exemplary warriors in my program, and I've done it the last 2 events and it's not just based on how many units they have or anything like that. It's the ones that really help out. And we did a slide for each one, and one PowerPoint slide, and it talked about what they'd done, but it also, every single one of them did something for charity. Veterans homelessness, veterans suicide, sexual trafficking, building schools in India, building schools in Latin America. And I looked at the 1,000 people in the audience, I said, that's a freaking clue, okay? Power moves to those who serve. So again, give back right now, and you'll be happily achieving, and the success will come faster. You don't do it for that reason, but that's just the way God works.
I love that. Yeah, it's so powerful, man. I tell you what, if everybody could learn that at a much younger age, I had
to be 40. I'm embarrassed to say I had to be 40, and it was a real it was an epiphany. It was an eye opener and life changing. And so that's why you said, what my goals are. I want to build schools in Latin America. I want to build self-sustaining schools. Right now I've been feeding. I want to teach them to feed, to feed themselves. You know what I'm saying? So I want to build schools like with an agriculture infrastructure or maybe an IT infrastructure. I've been threatening this for a decade, but as soon as my life slows down, that's where I'm headed to do that. So, that's it for me. Student success. I hang my hat on my student success. It's I have these student-only events, and it's like, it's a big ego trip for me because they're so thrilled and they're so successful, and I have 300-400 students there. It's very rewarding.
Really,
I'm sure it is for you too. Would you agree?
100%.
You're in the same place.
And I've been in Nicaragua 4 times. Building houses down there.
Good for you, man.
And
good for you.
Personally, so like a lot of people send money. I sent money and went and built a house.
That's cool. Yeah, when you
right,
like
there's something about
you hand a backpack to a kid or you hand a basket of food to a family.
Game change, dude.
It changes everything.
We had a saying, like we would go down multiple times and we would get back on the airplane. It's like we're going down to help. We're literally changing these people's lives, right? Like we're building them a literal house. They didn't have a house, and they changed my life more than I changed their life.
Oh yeah,
which that's saying something.
No, absolutely.
Right, because like you're getting back on the airplane and your life is different.
Yeah.
More than even there. It's the craziest thing.
Yeah, I know. This probably sounds crazy to you if you haven't done it yet, but trust me, when you do, you'll see what we're talking about
100%.
Here. I'm so impressed with you that you've done it already because I had to be 40 to get the friggin' memo.
Well, because I, similar to you, just at a younger age. There's been many times in my life where I've made millions of dollars. I drove the Lamborghinis. I've had multiple Lamborghinis. I've had traveled the world, right? And freaking hated my life.
Yeah.
I remember 27, 28 years old, hated my life.
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I even, what's the point of it?
I've interviewed hugely successful, financially successful people on my show, and I can tell if they haven't pivoted yet.
Yeah.
I can tell they're really not successful because they're so focused on themselves, and I feel sad for them. They have to learn it themselves. They have to reach that place. But I even had a billionaire on the show that I could see, not Albert, but another one that was like, man, he hasn't evolved.
You can see
yet.
right through it.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah,
because that's not successful. And so hear me, guys. I know that's I want the money, I want the Lambo, I want all that shit. Let me tell you something. You incorporate giving back, it'll come faster. That's it. It's the way the world works, man.
And it's when you take your focus off the money and you put it on something else, then you just attract, it just walks right into your life.
That's it.
Like the door just opens wide open when you're least expecting it, right?
That's how it works.
And it's like that girl that you're trying too hard, and then that you're almost like pushing it away. Like I've seen people do that, and I've even done that, where I'm trying so hard to make money and to make it work that you're almost actually pushing it away from you.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, where do people find you? I know that we're going to put your link to the event and everything down below. We'll put code Austin.
Thanks.
They can get a discount. Where else can they find you?
No, just listen. Text the word links to 72345. Get that website. There's so many free resources there. I mean, world-class resources, and they're free. And all my social media is there. My podcast is there. Subscribe and start listening.
Yeah.
I promise you'll be glad you did. And if you've got any questions, I answer every single question, on social. So if you ping me on IG and you ask a question, if my team can't answer it, I answer it. Because a lot of the questions are the same. So they've got answers to the most common questions. But anything they can't, I answer. So, feel free to ask. And if you can get your butt to Orlando, there'll be over 1,000 participants. The network will be off the hook. It'll be a kick in the ass because I spend a lot of time on mindset. You'll leave so juiced you won't know what to do with yourself. And I don't say that lightly. In fact, if you go to Rod's Links and go to the boot camp site, go to the bottom of that site and see what hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people have said about my events.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had a complaint.
Don't take Rod's word for it. Take their word for it.
Yeah, that's it.
I love that.
Thanks.
Yeah, very cool. I really appreciate it, Rod. Thank you for being on, and I'm sure we'll do it again in the future.
Good to see you.
Once I get into multifamily, then I'll come.
Oh yeah, no, you need to come too if you're going to.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that after the show. Okay, right. Thank you, Rod. Hey, if you're still watching, do me a huge favor. Make sure you go check out Rod. Go to his event. Click the link down below, and make sure you watch his podcast. Also, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.